All right, here we go. It is a brand new Flyers Daily for Friday, the 7th of February, 2025. Flyers Daily, as always, brought to you by Ticketmaster. Make more memories live. Wow, it feels good to be back. It's been a couple of days. Been a tough week. Been a tough bunch of days after treatment number 2, but we pushed on. We forge on. First thing I want to take care of in this episode, Daniel Briere is going to join us in just a couple of minutes. Flyers general manager, a lot to talk about with the GM and an overarching conversation. But the first thing I want to touch on here is the support I've gotten from everybody. I got a note from a guy that said, "Hey man, I don't know if it bothers you. I keep checking in on you. It does not bother me when people check in on me. It helps me a tremendous amount. It gives me strength when I get the notes that I've gotten from so many of you guys, and the support I've gotten. It's making a difference for me. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. Also, I have to thank Brian Smith because he's been jumping in and filling in on some of the Flyers dailies that I have not been able to do. And sometimes those have come with very short notice. I plan on doing it, but I'm either too weak or my health doesn't allow it. And he's got to jump in on the road once he gets to a city or whatever it might be and bang out a Flyers daily so that you guys have this content as my water bottle keeps making noise. But the work that he's done to help me out and continue to serve this audience, which means this audience means so much to me. So thanks to Brian Smith as well. As you can tell, I'm still a little weak. My voice is definitely not 100%. But we're going to push on. Next treatment's not till next Thursday. We got a few days to recover before that, and we'll take that one as it comes, just like we've taken everything else as it comes, shift by shift, period by period, game by game here, as we continue this battle. So thanks to everybody for the unbelievable support. Flyers fall last night to the Washington Capitals. Tough game. I thought they played really well in the game. I thought they played their butts off and unfortunately come away with a regulation loss after leading going into the third period, 2 third-period goals by the Caps. You could see right away in the game, Mishkov was on it. And I believe that when a player is playing against somebody that he grew up idolizing, watching a ton, a fellow countryman of the stature of Alexander Ovechkin, it's going to give you a little more juice. He had tons of juice in that game. 2 goals, almost had a third with the Michigan, was buzzing around all night, creating plays, creating offense, playing in all zones very well, frankly. I thought he was excellent in the game. Really, really good performance. Tyson Forster was really good in the game as well. Didn't like a couple of the goals that Fedotov gave up, particularly the short side goals, so the Michael goal and then the Chychrun goal. I was a little late getting over on the Chychrun one because that wasn't a one-timer. He had to kind of collect it and get it onto his forehand and then get the shot off short side. But a 4-3 loss, and the Caps, it's unbelievable. The highest points percentage in the NHL at this point in the season. I thought they were a team that was not going to sniff the playoffs this year, and they were on the decline. They turned over a ton of the roster, pushed a lot of chips in the middle. And Ovechkin's obviously waning years. He picked up a goal last night, only 16 now from Wayne Gretzky from getting the record. And they've done a tremendous job. Carberry's done an amazing job there, Stephen Carberry. Behind the bench, he's got to be your Jack Adams winner. So really good team in Washington this season. Flyers played them gamely, but you play games to win, and they didn't come away with the win. But let's get to our feature conversation. I had a chance yesterday to sit down with Flyers general manager Daniel Briere. Overarching conversation about the trades, where this puts the Flyers in the rebuild, and tons more. Here's my conversation with Danny Briere. What a way to come back after missing a bunch of days. How about the general manager of the team, Daniel Briere, joining us on this episode? Danny, how you doing?
I'm doing good, Jason. Good seeing you.
Good seeing you as well. It's been obviously a bit of a whirlwind of a week trying to get the new players here with getting the visas and everything. We don't need to get into the particulars of that. But where I want to start is, as you guys, when you and Jonesy and this management team was kind of put in place, and Torts would reiterate this as well, the first part of this entire process of rebuild was evaluating, subtracting, maybe some backfilling, guys like Garnet Hathaway, but also, and then guys that earned a continual evaluation going through that. And you kind of went through that process and didn't cut any corners.
Yeah, and we've said it from the get-go. The players were going to decide, how far we can push with the players that we had, and the players will decide how, we move ahead in the future as well. So, um, I know sometimes it's tough to take a step back. It's tough to have to be patient. But we really feel that this is the way to go. Where we're going moving forward, and the flexibility that is needed to move ahead. Unfortunately, we felt we had to move on from two great guys.
Yeah, and that's part of it, and that's one of the hard parts of it. Let me ask you this though, because you know, everybody people say, "Oh, I want my team to do a rebuild. I want them to do it properly." It's easy to say, hard to live. How hard has it been for you to live it?
Well, it was
Because you're
tough.
a
It was
competitor.
emotional. It was emotional
Yeah.
telling the guys. I've been in the organization for a long time. I came back, on the management side, and Joel and Morgan were both on board. I got to know them really well, especially in Morgan's case. When one of my first assignment was really to work with him, having gone through kind of the same things early on in our career. So I spent a lot of time with Morgan. Wonderful, wonderful guy. So that one was really tough, having to tell him that we were moving in a different direction.
This next part. Well, let me ask you about part one, because part one was about kind of what I talked about, subtracting and that evaluation process. Have we now kind of moved to phase two, where you get to start to get into, okay, we've made those evaluations. We're still going to have to keep evaluating
Yeah.
as we go through this process and
Yeah.
become a team on the ascension. But are we now moving into that phase two of, now we're actually in the not rebuilding, but starting to build stage?
I wouldn't say that yet. And we're looking. We're kind of. I think it's fair to say we're in between the two stages, maybe. We're still evaluating, like you said, but we're also looking, and that the flexibility that deal gives us a chance to kind of peek into the future a little bit, and kind of look at what's out there, and how we could um, really make things better on a short term, but without losing view of the long term and of this organization, and where we want to get in a few years, which is not only to make the playoffs but become a contender. That's still the goal, is not just to make the playoffs, become a Stanley Cup contender year after year, and build it for years to come, not just a one in and one out year after year.
Danny, you were part of some teams that did exactly that. Were a perennial cup contender. We're going to the playoffs, and you get into the playoffs. You hope you're playing your best hockey. You hope your team's healthy, and you've also played on some teams where it was kind of in one year, out the next. What
Yeah.
is the difference in vibe being around a team that is a perennial cup contender for a big chunk of time, as opposed to that every other year thing?
Yeah, the belief, I think, in the room, and the guys sense that, and they know that. It's the best feeling in the world, knowing that you just need to get to the playoffs, and you'll be dangerous. Early in my career, my own personal career, it was kind of the opposite, where we were hoping to make the playoffs, but we didn't really believe that we could make a real run at the Stanley Cup. Um, Early in my years in Buffalo was kind of the same thing, and all of a sudden, when we came back from the lockout in 05, 06, we came back, and it was a totally different belief in the locker room. I got to live that for a couple of years, and then when I signed in Philly, immediately you sense that. So all of my years in Philadelphia, it really felt that we just needed to get in the playoffs, and we were going to be a contender.
Yeah, that's such a good feeling when you come to camp. There's an excitement around it, and
Absolutely.
we're going all out to go and get after it. Now that that sting is kind of worn off, if it does to an extent for a GM of making the trade of two guys you liked personally, but you have to make those hard decisions, as you've mentioned. I imagine you get pretty darn excited about the opportunities now from a fiscal situation, a cap situation that it's opened
Correct.
up for you guys.
Yeah,
Suddenly,
absolutely.
there's a lot of possibilities out there.
Correct. Absolutely. That's the exciting part, because now we can really focus on, you know, just having the flexibility that we didn't have earlier when you're talking to teams or you're looking at the possible free agents coming up in the summer. Um, you knew you just couldn't get into that market. Now,
Yeah.
we're going to be doing our homework because we want to make sure we get it right. You got to get the right players, coming in the fray. So, that's the next step for us, and we've been looking at that, but now finally it's a reality, and we can really push forward. So that's really exciting.
One of the things that I was talking to Jonesy a couple of weeks ago when we had him on, and he mentioned that you got to get. You said you just use the term right players, and he had mentioned to me, when you go out and you're looking for that 1C, you don't just get the best available, the first available 1C. You still have to be really prudent in your approach to get the best 1C for your team. So
Yeah.
you still got to stick with that kind of that patience and
Yeah.
say, yeah, this is a guy. He'd help us right now, but he's not long term the best 1C. I think
Yeah.
fans need to understand that too.
Yeah, you're totally right, and with the right one, you're probably willing to go long term and sign on a long term contract, knowing that you're married to him for a while. If that's not a possibility, or we don't think that right player is there for the long term, we might dive into some shorter term deals and see some guys that are interesting, but we just don't know enough about, and we want to see before we commit to a long-term contract with them. We might go in that direction. So we're exploring everything that's out there in the market. We're also exploring everything on a trade front, to try to position ourselves in the best way possible moving forward.
I imagine you were put to the test at points during this phase of the rebuild want to accelerate at times. You're a competitor. You want to get better.
Mhm.
One of those, I'm sure, was when Matvey Michkov came over 2 years early. You guys didn't, though. But was there sometimes where you go, "Oh, we want to do something"? Calm down. We got to stick to the plan. Everybody kind of keeping each other from trying to take too many steps forward at one time.
Yeah. Every single day we have to remind ourselves that, and it's tough. And believe me, Jonesy's the same way, and Torts is the same way.
Yeah.
Dan Hilford is the same way. So we're all ultra competitive, and we hold each other accountable. Some days it's Jonesy that calms everybody down. Sometimes it's Dan. Sometimes it's Torts. We all see the long term picture, but you're right. There's moments where we want to be aggressive, and we want to get it done now because that's in our nature.
Yeah, that's. I love the answer every day. That was that. Tell me about Kuzmenko and Jacob Peltier. Let's start with Kuzmenko. He had a great year a couple of years ago. It was his rookie year. I
Yep.
think he was 26-year-old rookie. What do you see in Kuzmenko, and a good opportunity for you guys to take a look at him with your system and staff?
Yeah, exactly. It's it's an example of a player that we want to know more about. He was. I think we were in the mix a couple years ago when he came over. He decided to go with Vancouver and exploded right onto the scene. So he's got some explosiveness. He can score goals. It's been an up and down kind of 2 years for him here in North America, but the high end talent is there. And the exciting part is we get to see him from the inside. We get to know him before we want to, if we, to see if we want to commit in the future with him. I can't wait to have him here playing on the ice. Is there going to be some chemistry with TK or with Matvey or with Tyson Forster? Who knows? That's what I'm looking forward with him.
Now, Peltier, everything I've read about him, and granted, I don't know a lot about him coming into this situation, is a great guy, great energy. Matter of fact, somebody put out a list of the first either player or media member he would kiss first, and I came in second in the odds that he would kiss my bald head first. Probably not going to, because I'm not going to be around him a whole heck of a lot this season. But what is it about Peltier? Because his energy seems to be something people love him. I know John Torchetti, who was assistant coach with the team while you were with the Flyers,
I was here.
had him as a captain in Moncton, and
Yeah.
couldn't say anything but positive things about him.
Yeah. And we're hearing that about both players actually. So
Hmm.
that's really exciting and positive. In Jacob's case, yeah, he's only 23 years old too, and the way they were talking about him and in the locker room, that's really impressive. At his age already, being so well liked by his teammates. Um, it's more than that with him. It's to see, at 23 years old, how much upside does he have? How far can he take his game? Um, with his contract situation, we're obviously going to be a little bit more patient with him. We're going to give him the chance. But yeah, he brings, what we're hearing from him is he's a smart player. Um, the coach is going to love him. All the coaches that have him love him because he's detailed. He works every single shift. Smart player out there. Now, we want to see with his size, can he be effective at the NHL level? That's pretty much the only thing you're questioning with him. Everything else comes back rated super high. So I can't wait to see him. I think he's going to fit in really well with us on this team. And Torts is really going to like this guy.
I think the intrigue of trying to unlock a 23-year-old to get him to the level and for him to have that belief in his NHL game is going to be a fun thing to watch. Danny, I know the projections for the cap have come out over the next 3 years. 95.5 next year, I think 104 the year after that, and 113.5. They're not cement, but those are pretty darn big numbers. As a GM, I can't imagine like you finally get a GM gig and you're stuck in a flat cap world. You had that for the first part here, but you're going
Yeah,
to be in a GM gig where all of a sudden the ceiling is rising like an elevator on steroids here.
yeah.
How exciting is it to see those kind of projected numbers for you as a GM when it comes to
Yeah,
shopping?
I mean it's very exciting, and the timing, the way um, we're moving forward, and the goal, the timing is perfect for us. We're clearing and making sure we have some space, even if this stayed the same. At the same number going into next year, we were going to be in a much better position than we've been probably the last 6-7 years here in Philadelphia. So on top of it, it goes up. It's even more possibilities for us, and even more the following year when a lot of our dead money comes off the cap, and the cap goes up again. It's really exciting for us. Again, we got to make sure the right players coming in the
Yep.
board is the key here. But there's no doubt that there's a level of excitement that we haven't had the chance to do something like this in a long time.
It almost feels like an uncapped league in a way when you're accelerating like that. Some of these numbers, though, they're going to scare some teams, Danny, because while the ceilings are the ones I gave, the 95, 104, and 113, the floor is going to be raising as well. And that's going to scare maybe some Canadian teams with the exchange rate and then smaller market U.S.
Yeah.
teams. Will this now give an advantage to the U.S. teams in core markets and in big markets like the Flyers, like the
Yeah.
Rangers, Chicago,
Hey,
Boston?
it's a little soon to you know I guess go that route. It's possible. I can't
Yeah.
speak for the other teams, um, but one thing I know is for our Flyers fans, is that we're very fortunate having Comcast with Brian Roberts and Dan Hilferty behind us, giving us everything possible to be the best possible team on the ice. So I'm very grateful of that, and our Flyers fans should be as well.
Yeah, and not to mention the redoing of the practice facility, the
Yeah,
downstairs at Wells Fargo. Those are all big selling points.
yeah,
Most positive storyline for you this year from an individual standpoint, it's got to be Noah Cates, right?
yeah. No, Noah's
Ridiculous how good he's
been.
been.
Yeah, Noah Cates is really taken in, and when we talked about that, where with the trades coming, I mean, there's a lot of guys that took a step forward for us. Starting with TK, that after signing a big contract, he came back ready to go, took another step. Tippett had a slow start, but he's coming on. He's again, his size, his speed, and the way he can score goals is really showing up. But the younger guys like, well, Cates is getting up there, but he's only 25 or 26. Uh, but when you think about Brink taking a step, you talk about Forster taking a big step as well. That's really exciting because those guys now have shown that they can be part of the future and they can be part of what we're building here. To me, that's really exciting to see those guys take a step. Noah Cates, after a rough year last year, we challenged him, um, asked him to take a step, and he delivered. He's delivering this year. Um, he improved in the faceoff circle. He improved with his physicality. He improved with his offense without taking a step back on his defense. So that's to us really exciting to see him, especially in the center position, which obviously we're pretty thin. To have a guy like him, it comes in and solidifies and takes a big chunk moving forward of our center position.
Yeah, his willingness to drive pucks to the blue paint from down low too has been something that's really stuck out with me. Jam plays around the net,
Yep.
and
And it's
just
something, yeah, it's
yeah,
something this year that he really took a step forward with. We asked him to do that. We needed more offense, and yeah, not being afraid to take pucks to the net, jamming plays, because when you do that, you're gonna get beat up. You're
oh,
gonna
you're
have to
vulnerable.
take some cross checks and some punches to the head, but he keeps doing it, and that's really exciting to see.
Yeah, that's a hard place to make a living. That's where you made a living for a long time down in that
Well, I
area.
was, yeah, I love scoring goals too much. That's why I just kept going back there.
Yeah.
There's no better feeling in the world than scoring goals in the NHL. So that's why I was doing it. I don't know what his willingness comes from, but I know for me that was just the feeling of scoring a goal was just too much to not go there.
Four Nations break coming up. Is there a roster freeze during Four Nations?
As far as I know, no. I think we're allowed to keep doing business. I expect the GMs to be pretty quiet, especially the first few days. But as far as I know, we're still doing business daily as usual.
Okay. A little bit more work. The deadline comes up on March 7th. Perhaps more in the works here. I know you're working the phones.
Yeah, I think the first week, just talking to the different GMs, a lot of guys are getting away the first few days, but it's going to give us the chance to look around and maybe work internally a lot more, come up with game plans to attack March 7th.
Well, it's an exciting time, and making the trade and what lies ahead is going to be very fascinating to watch. I'm looking forward to it. I know you're looking forward to it as well, as many Flyer fans are also. Danny, thanks as always for taking the time on this busy weekend, final weekend before Four Nations. We appreciate it as always, and we'll talk soon.
Awesome. Thanks, Jason. All the best to you as well.
Thanks to Danny Briere for taking the time to drop in on us here on Flyers Daily on this Friday episode. Great to be back as well. Everybody, I hope you have a great, safe, happy weekend, and we'll talk to you Monday with Meltzer. On Mondays with Meltzer coming up. We'll be in the Four Nations break, but there'll be plenty to talk about coming up this Monday on a brand new Flyers Daily.